some different ingredients too. So,
Yay! And we're live.
all right. Well, we'll do
All
our
right.
usual rambling
Yeah.
check in and just make sure we're up on all the outlets
Excuse me. Yes.
and give people a few minutes. We always give
Always.
people like 5 minutes to arrive on the scene. Somebody's here. Hello, welcome.
Hello.
Wonderful to have you here on this new moon in Aries. Big full energy, right? On April Fool's Day. I love it because Aries is represented by the Fool in the tarot. So it's such an initiatory cycle that's beginning now. We really have an opportunity to wrap up the old cycle of healing work and move forward in a real positive way and hatch new visions and have all the oomph, of that big boss energy behind us to make it happen before we head back into eclipse season, which will be coming on April 30th in the sign of Taurus. So, but that's just life. We go through that, right? The times when things are moving into expansion and times when, things are more doing that work in the shadow, but it's by doing that work in the shadow that we're able to let that light in. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Getting us shared out. I think we're still just like one person in here. Hello, whoever's here. Hello.
They'll all come.
Oh
They'll
yeah.
straggle in. It'll
Oh
be
yeah.
okay. So how are you feeling on this new moon?
I'm feeling pretty good. Yeah. I mean, I'm tired. But that's just more I didn't sleep very well last night. And that's because I went down this silly rabbit hole and so, I just stayed up too late. And it was my own fault. So,
I feel you. I think I went to bed at like 5 o'clock this morning.
oh, wow. Okay.
Same. I was just up, riding the energy like I always do. Oh,
Hello,
so
Danielle.
so we're going to be doing a working in this particular live, and I did put out some ingredients, that you can bring, and we're just constructing this jar spell together. But you can, put it on your own altar and feed it daily, and we'll go through all that, and also, you know, what to do when it comes time to release the spell. How do you dispose of it properly? All that. We'll go into particulars. I did list different spices you could bring in, different herbs. By no means are those any kind of limitations. I just wanted to kind of think of what most people might readily have on hand. But there's many different herbs and spices that can be used for prosperity, and we'll go into that. So really listen to your own intuition in regard to that. If you felt particularly drawn to bring in a particular stone, or you felt really drawn to bring in certain herbs or spices, I made some alterations according to different things I want to bring in. And when we were backstage before we came on, Lizzie was telling me a little something about what she heard through the TikTok vine. So I'm going to let Lizzie take the floor and kind of share this little piece before we dive into tonight's discussion.
So, I think it's really important because we are talking about money and it was a screen grab. A little witch talker was had shared the screen recording of a YouTube video. I'm assuming they stumbled upon where a YouTube content creator was essentially saying if your altar is a TV tray with the goddess statue on it and other things on the TV tray, that's not an altar. And it was very, in my opinion, elitist and very classist because I it just I saw red. Like I had to scroll up. Like I couldn't because if you're new to this practice, I think one of the biggest pressures is performing and having enough or making sure that you fit the aesthetic. Um, People have seen my altar when I go live, like that big bookcase that's behind me most of the time. That's my altar, but I need to preface it, as I always do, 16 years of practicing and obtaining and collecting what I have and building. It did not start out like this. I know many who did not start out like this. And so my jar tonight is a plastic gelato jar because you know what? If this is what you have, this is what you have. And no one should tell you, well, you can't practice witchcraft if you don't have a glass or you don't have this. Hell no. Do you think our ancestors had these beautiful glass, like all this stuff to do their workings with? No, no. It was what was available and what was on hand. So I'm off my soapbox now. That's all. You don't need to have all these beautiful things to practice witchcraft. All you need is a freaking jar. And if it's plastic, it's okay. It's okay.
Well,
Okay.
TikTok witches are the experts.
They are. And so are YouTube witches. I mean, come on, Shannon. You know, dear God, this woman, she had this coiffed blonde hair and these acrylic nails and this freaking makeup. Like, I was like, I'm sorry. Like, okay, you know,
Yeah.
but it goes back, and this is something that you and I have talked about is how you practice is how you practice. And one of the beautiful things about being a witch is if we wanted all these rules and all this classist and elitist bullshit, we would have stayed Christians. I just, sorry, not sorry. That's all. So, yeah.
Well,
No.
you know me, I'm a Discordian witch, so I'll work with anything, and it's very free form and it's very spontaneous, and I do a lot of spontaneous workings. That being said, I love working with jars. I love working with petitions. I love doing these kind of workings. And it's very true. If you look at the roots of these various traditions, it was just kind of like work with whatever you have on hand. Not only work with whatever you have on hand, but also work with what's going to be inconspicuous, because a lot of times these things were practiced in secrecy. Okay, so you wanted to use everyday household items. Your grandma may have had a little sugar bowl, and maybe she had a petition, tucked in there. And maybe you'd want to go into that sugar bowl, and your grandma would say, "No, you don't touch that sugar bowl because that's what brings the sweetness into my life." So, you know, these things were kind of hidden in plain sight, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And yes, absolutely. So whatever you have to work with, uh, bring it in. And it's okay if you don't have everything that I listed, and if you made substitutions, and if you listened to your intuition and you got creative with it. I just wanted to give some suggestions of things that might be more readily available, things people might easily have on hand. Because, I mean, you can go way out there. I could have thrown out like High John the Conqueror root and Five Finger Grass, you know, and all this stuff, and people would be like, I don't have that laying
Where do
around,
I get
So
that?
I mean, some of us do, but I didn't want to make it inaccessible to people. I wanted them to be able to kind of like dive into their kitchen
Mhm.
cupboards and go, "Oh yeah, I got that. I can work with that."
Right, right,
So it's like if
right.
you have ginger spice and not ginger root, that's perfectly acceptable.
Yeah.
I'm bringing in some different spices and herbs tonight myself. I'm bringing in basil. Basil is also a big
Ooh, yeah.
prosperity herb. And
Yeah.
I'm bringing in frankincense. That's another prosperity
Mhm.
resin. So, there are no rules, okay? Um, but just a general framework, is kind of nice to work with. And we're going to go into that in the second half, but we kind of wanted to first begin and talk about just the energetics of money, you know?
Mhm.
And especially being part of like the spiritual community, those of us who do work that's within the spiritual community, whether we're readers, whether we do holistic healing work, energy work, whatever that may be. There's a lot of stigma sometimes around profiting from making money,
Mhm.
by bringing these gifts forward. And so I kind of wanted to touch on some of those sort of touchy kind
Mhm.
of areas and open up conversation about that, and just share how we each individually practice. And I am going to have comments up here, so
Fun.
we'll be saying hello to everybody. Hello Danielle, and hello Angel Wings. It's good to see y'all here. If you have any questions, please feel free to bring them in, or if you have something you want to add to the discussion, we love to have you participate. It's all about building the community vibe here, okay? And I'm really glad to have you all here and to usher in this new moon energy. I'm really stoked about it. I'm ready for the Aries energy to come in. Like,
Same.
I'm so ready. Can we move away from all the kind of watery, like, I'm just,
Yeah. 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 Yep.
I'm ready for some initiatory fire, man.
Mhm.
Get that
Mhm.
motivation going. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Same.
So, I mean, I think I'll just share first from
Mhm.
my perspective,
Sure.
and then, you interject where
Absolutely.
you feel appropriate, Lizzie. But from my perspective, I do tarot, I do tarot readings, and I do charge for my tarot readings. It is an energy exchange. And the way I feel about that is that tarot, at least in the way that I practice it, really is kind of more like it's like a counseling session,
Mhm.
and I do have that background. I do have a background as a counselor, and I'm holding space for some pretty heavy issues. It does get pretty involved, and I feel it is completely within a proper code of conduct to charge for that service. However, there is certain work that I do that I don't charge for. And I do that just out of respect for the roots of those traditions. So when I do soul retrieval work, when I do extraction work for people, when I send Reiki to people, I actually don't charge for any of those services. I always graciously receive donations, if somebody feels moved to do that, but in no way am I going to withhold that support they need, because they aren't able to give me any kind of a donation. And that is my way of sort of keeping that balance where I'm being of service,
Mhm.
and I'm showing up and I'm giving support to people that need it. Um, but I'm not charging them money for it, and a lot of times people do want to give a donation or they want to express their gratitude afterwards. And I do graciously receive those, but it's not a service I charge for. I don't advertise it as a service that I charge for. It's something um, I just do to be of a seva, to be of a service. And that feels very clean and it
Mhm.
feels right to me. If I'm working with a client and that client is getting a reading from me, and something comes up in that reading where they need support with cord cutting, or maybe I recognize, that they have an energy attached to them that needs to be extracted, from their auric field, or any kind of that, like energetic sort of healing work.
Mhm.
I always tell them, hey, I can help support you in this if you would like me to help you, and I don't charge for this service, and that's something that it feels very clean to me. And I've actually received um, a couple soul retrievals in my time. Once I was charged for it, and once it was by donation. And I definitely felt the power of the experience that was by donation only. And I think it was because it was really staying true to the roots of that particular tradition and doing that kind of work, where it really is just about being a service. And same thing with Reiki. Reiki is really, it's life force energy.
Mhm.
So I kind of have this weird sort of relationship with it in my mind as far as charging for life force energy. I don't know. That's just where I'm at with it, but that's kind of how I've balanced. And in terms of tarot reading, I mean, I have my YouTube channel and
Mhm.
I offer so many readings for free
Mhm.
on
Mhm.
a regular basis. And I do see that as that's kind of my way of being of service as a reader. So if
Mhm.
somebody wants more personal, one-on-one spiritual counseling support, in my mind, it feels completely fair and reasonable to expect an exchange of monetary energy for
Mhm.
that service.
Yes. Yes. No, I agree. The state that I currently live in, you actually have to be licensed in order to give any form of tarot, divination, spiritual services. Um, and if you are not licensed, you could be subject to heavy fines if you are charged with practicing without a license or doing this without a license. So I'm actually getting ready to take down the services portion. Not saying that I won't, because clearly I will. Um, but as far as me charging, because I want to stay within the legalities of my state and I don't want to jeopardize any future potential at getting licensed should I stay in my state long term. So I'm not charging for tarot readings. Um, but I'm also not going to be offering spell work either, because that to me is, not necessarily like cord cuttings, clearly, because cord cuttings are something very different. But, in regards to, oh, I have some coworkers that are really gossipy, that's kind of some of the spell work that people have reached out to me to perform. And
Mm.
then healing, I don't charge because really, really, should you be doing that? I feel it's a kind of a gray area. I don't judge people who charge for their services, nor do I judge anybody that has the prices the way that they are. Your prices are your price. And if that's what somebody feels they're worth, that's what somebody feels they're worth. And I just kind of don't feel that it's up to us to dictate. Hi, Ted.
Ted's feeling very abundant tonight because to be a good stagehand, I went out and got him a bag of sausages. So he's really, raking it in tonight. He's in
Yeah,
his
he is.
abundant flow. He's definitely wanting more sausages. So I'm sorry for the
Yes, he is.
interruption.
He's like, give me the treats. Give me the treats. Uh, but yeah, so eventually I do plan on charging for my services again, but getting licensed in my state is actually a little bit more complicated. I don't want to say it's complicated because it's not. But it requires a full FBI background check that you have to pay for yourself. And that's like $350 plus the licensing itself is anywhere between 5 to 600. So that's, close to $1,000 that I'd be having to pay out of pocket that just right now, um, that's not my priority. you know, um, I just spent a lot of money to get licensed to sell insurance, so I'm okay. One license at a time. Maybe in 2023, if the world has not completely imploded in on itself, will be a goal for 2023. But you know, I think for right now we're okay. So, with that being said, I'm sure people are viewing this, or if you're viewing this in the future, you know, of course, yes, feel free to reach out to me, but I am going to say that I'm going to have some hard boundaries with this because it still is an energy that I am giving, and I can't even accept donations. Like that's the way it works out. Like somebody can't say, well, let me donate, you didn't charge. It explicitly states, I can't accept gifts, I can't accept donations, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and I just don't, because I know people, people can be petty, and I don't want somebody that I pissed off, somewhere in my lifetime to be like, oh, so she's doing this. Let me just pick the phone and, because people are
It's
people, and
hardcore in Nevada, man.
it
That's
is.
that's
It
rough.
is.
That's
It is.
rough.
I've heard the FBI background check is very intensive. I've heard that you actually have to interview with the FBI. And so that's just like, I kind of feel like I was telling this with I was talking to a
Because they
coworker
want to
today.
know. They're like,
Right.
are you really that psychic? Because we might want to pull you in on some
Right. Like
casework,
I'm like,
man.
oh, like, well, I was telling my friend because or my coworker, we were having this conversation and it got really onto like conspiracy theories, and he was like, Lizzie, sometimes you sound like you're pretty far out there, and I feel like you might be on a government database. And I laughed and I said, oh my God, I'm sure I am. Like I'm sure, So I don't really need the FBI to be like, oh, this bitch with her anarchist ways and her psychic abilities. But that's all. That's all.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I don't blame you with that. And it's interesting, just the energetics of that, just for those who are doing spiritual work, that this component of offering just freely, um, as a form of service, I think is an important component in general for anyone when it comes to financial flow. Because one of the biggest things that I see blocks abundance for people is a lack of gratitude
Mhm.
and appreciation, and that kind of paying it forward, where you do just help somebody out of sheer generosity and the desire to offer them support without really being so focused on the reward. And it's very interesting to me that the times that I've really been in the flow of that and very centered in that practice of gratitude are the times that I've actually experienced the most generosity
Mhm.
coming back to me. I'll just give an example about that very briefly. When I worked at the Ayurvedic healing center that I worked at in California, I went through a period of time where I decided, since I wanted to go and visit Detroit and I wanted an extended vacation, it turned out I ended up living here.
So much for an extended vacation.
But I wanted to be able to afford it, comfortably and not worrying, about maintaining my rent at home and my bills at home and all that stuff. So I kind of sat down and I looked at my finances and I really realized, well, the only way I'm going to be able to pull this off is if I work 40 days in a row all day, do overtime, don't turn anybody away because I was an independent contractor. So I
Mhm.
kind of had some
Mhm.
wiggle room with that. I had the ability to say, I'll pass on this one today. But really just make myself available, and so available that I would even stay overtime, for my normally scheduled hours if somebody came in and they were really in need. And I said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go 40 days in a row. I'm not going to take a break. Mind you, the work that I did at that center was extremely physically demanding. I did a lot of
Mhm.
restructuring, deep tissue, intensive body work, panchakarma work, and it pretty booked up back to back to back to back to back, with clients. So I was very concerned, like, how am I going to be able to do this? This is a real energy demand that's going to be required of me to pull
Mhm.
this off. And the thing that I often see happen within the healing field, but I also see it among spiritual workers, and I see it in any kind of, professional atmosphere, okay, where when people are working really hard, they can have a tendency to sort of lose the appreciation for the fact that it is an energy exchange. Yes, you're working hard, but you're also getting a payoff for that work. Now, whether you agree with your rate of pay or any of that is a whole other story. But if you want to have a better rate of pay, I'll tell you the first place to begin is to appreciate the rate of pay that you do have, and the fact that you are fortunate enough to have income coming in, that you are able to like pay your bills and take care of your needs, that you have a roof over your head, all of these things. Gratitude is definitely the attitude. And, if it isn't enough or you're not being appreciated, then, you know, coming from that place of being grateful for what you have also makes you appreciate what you bring to the table too, and understanding that energy exchange. And maybe you'll go somewhere where you are more appreciated, where you can get a more mutually beneficial situation going on. But, I made a decision, and they kind of looked at me like I was crazy when I told them to put me on the schedule for 40 days at the front counter. Um, and I made a decision at that point that I was going to be grateful for every single person that walked in the door, because that person was helping me manifest the reality I was looking to call in for myself. And it became this like meditation for me. And I noticed the places. It was a very, very much a process. I went through many rounds of this. I worked like this actually for a 2-year period. I kept doing it 40 days in a row. Then I'd have a little break. And I practiced this every time somebody came in. Just when I thought, oh, I'm gonna go home now. I'm at the end of my shift. Emergency client would come in, and I'd notice the stuck places that would come up in me, the places that, was like, oh, I really wanted to go home. And then I'd wait a minute, get recentered. This person is here, and there is an energy exchange going on here. I want to give them the best service, and they're also helping me. So the more that I had this gratitude, I noticed all of a sudden the tips that came in just started just growing to a rate I've never experienced before. And sometimes when I was done with the service, I was tipped uh, an amount equal to the cost of the service. And that just blew me away. It's like $100 for this service, and you tipped me $100. Now, there were a lot of people that I was working with at the time that didn't understand that. They're like, how are you getting these tips? How is this happening? And the whole reality was, well, because I'm not focused on the tip. I'm focused on the quality of energy that I'm bringing to the table. I'm focusing on my client. I'm focusing on the energy exchange and keeping that energy exchange clean, and being in a place of gratitude. So that really taught me a lot. Angel Wings. Angel Wings did the same when she was working as a waitress. So yeah, there's something about that. It's a real practice. So that's the piece I really would like to bring forward, is that if you find you are in a place, which it's hard if you're really financially struggling, right? And I grew up in poverty. Okay, I did. I grew up in poverty. And there's been times in my life where I was homeless and I didn't have a stable place to live. And I've definitely struggled. And I know all about welfare and food stamps. And back in the 80s, standing in line for that big block of Day Glow orange government cheese. Okay. So I know what it's like to struggle. This is not coming from a place of somebody who's always just, had easy access, to financial flow, or I'm not a trust fund baby. I don't have, a silver spoon in my mouth. I've had to work really hard for everything I've earned in my life. And I know it can be difficult when you're in that place where you're really struggling to make ends meet, to have that attitude of gratitude. But really, it can become such a practice where it's like every time that you're going to pay that bill, just take a moment to say, I am so grateful that I'm able to pay my phone bill. Because can you imagine if you didn't have your phone and you couldn't have access to that to conduct everything you need to conduct in your daily life? Or when you go to buy groceries, being grateful that you're able to buy groceries, that you're getting fed that day, being grateful for the checker who is helping you out and is serving you, and understanding that too, just when you're out and about in the world, the people that you are interacting with in business, how they're feeling, and sharing some of that positivity and just giving them a compliment, thanking them for their service. This spirit of gratitude, it really does help to create this flow, this abundant flow. And where you're really worried about money all the time and you're scraping things together constantly and you're angry because you have to pay this rent, or frustrated, as annoying as it is, because those are all very real, very stressful situations. I know that energy acts like a roadblock and really prevents the support from coming in.
No, that's really interesting because, when I was having a lot of money, like when I first started practicing, I was in extreme poverty. I literally could not even afford to buy a 23-cent cup of noodle from the corner store. Like that's how impoverished I was. Um, Literally my food was the leftover bakery items from my coffee shop. Like my team knew that I was in dire straits, so they would bag it up and save it for me, even if I didn't work. And I had my altar, of course, and I remember I had this dream, and it it was what I perceived to be the goddess looking down on my altar, which was extremely cluttered, not very clean at all. And I remember hearing, well, I couldn't even get in there to help if I wanted to. And I woke up that
Mm-hmm.
next morning and I said, oh my God, I have to clean my altar. And I remember my ex was like, what do you mean? And I was like, no, 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 no. I have to clean my altar. I found a bunch of wax from a money spell that I did that apparently I didn't bury, I didn't get rid of, because I had done about 3 different money spells at that point and nothing had happened. And I was like, "Oh, great. Great. I'm so glad that I've been spending all my time and my money that I don't have on these classes and this practice that clearly isn't doing anything for me." Are you hearing? Are you hearing where I was at? I spent all this money and time because I hadn't spent much money, because the shop that I was taking my classes at was actually letting me work at the shop as a way to pay for my classes.
Mm.
Um, and so I remember I cleaned out my altar. I took all the wax from my workings and went out to the backyard area and buried them. 3 days later, surprisingly, my ex-husband won his unemployment settlement and they paid him back plus everything. Um, Ended up going to see a relative, got tons of like all of a sudden all this money just started coming in. And I remember like when I was with my relatives, because my unfortunately, hi Lex, um, my mom's mom had died, so we went to her funeral and got all this money. People filled up our car, like they gave us food. It was, and I remember my mom looked at me and she was like, "How did you come here on empty and leave with all this?" You know, and at the time my ex-husband was being quite nice and he was like, "She just does these things now. I don't I don't know. I don't know. It's just the way our life works now." But it was the willingness. Like we didn't want to go to my Mima's funeral because we didn't have any gas money. You
Mhm.
know, like he was like, "How in the hell are we going to get back?" And I was like, "We're going to get back. It's we just have to trust this." Oh yeah. No. No. One of my aunts gave me money for fun. She said cuz I have Oklahoma relatives. She said, "Elizabeth, now I'm going to give you this money and I don't want you to spend it on no bills. I just want you to have fun with it, okay?" Thanks, Aunt Phyllis. I bought weed with it. But and so that's what I'm saying is yes, shit gets really hard sometimes. And
Well,
has my life always been, great? No. Do I still have money problems now? Not so much anymore because I actually get paid really well. I I am but I manifested that job. The job that I currently have right now, I manifested at the start of my training. I went through some of my old books and notes and basically getting paid to what I do right now. That's what I wanted to do. And I'm going to start making commission. So
that's
money
great.
for me is really not it's I'm in that sweet spot of alignment right now that I was able to bring things in. Did I have to spend money? Yeah. Yeah. But and I'm not and I please don't misconstrued. And I know you feel the same way, Shannon. Things are really fucked right now.
Yes.
Inflation is fucked. Minimum wage is fucked. Capitalism is fucked.
The
And
American dollar is fucked.
yes, yes. And so I don't want anyone that is literally struggling and has been struggling since this pandemic to sit here and think that, Shannon and I are saying, "Oh, it's just so easy. Just change your mindset. Just change your mindset in the money." No, no, sometimes it really isn't that easy. And I respect that and I appreciate that. But sometimes also, yes, it is also what I'm saying. And that money is a frequency, yes. And that, yes, certain powers that be have made that frequency seem really unobtainable for a lot of people. But it's not. It's not. You can align yourself with that frequency. I promise you.
Well, and there's many different types of currency, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
not all about the dollar. And in a very
Mm-hmm.
real way, the American dollar is losing effectiveness right now as we
Mm-hmm.
speak. If you're paying attention to what's going on in the world and you're not distracted by stupid shit that's going on at the Oscars, okay? We got some really real stuff going on right now, but there's lots of forms of currency. Okay, there's lots of forms of currency, trading services.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's about also expanding your idea of what abundance is, what it means to be financially supported, what it means to have that kind of stability. because there's lots of avenues that that can manifest. You
Mhm.
know, sometimes there are work trade situations, and I think in a very real way we are at a place where it's time to rethink the whole structure, right, of how we look at currency, and form communities around that.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
think it's just a wonderful idea where you can trade services, you can trade goods, and kind of make the dollar obsolete in some respects.
Mhm.
But you brought up a really good point, just in the terms of doing workings, okay? And I want to touch on that a little bit more. The need to be, first of all, follow through with your workings when you do workings. Be clean, be clean with them, okay? That is so, so important. The other thing is
Mhm.
a lot of people think, oh, well, I can just do a money spell and it's just going to come to me. Bullshit.
No. No.
You need to back it up with the
Mhm.
work. You
Yep.
need to put the work in. Like,
Yep.
there are no handouts.
No.
There are no handouts. And yes, sometimes you just get totally blessed up. You just happen to be on the right side of the momentum of that
Yep.
wheel of fortune. And
Yep.
holy shit, right place, right time. I just got totally blessed up, unexpected. And that's awesome when that happens. But if you are, betting your life on that, you're going to run into trouble.
Mhm.
So it's wonderful to have dreams, and it's wonderful to have goals, and it's wonderful to have aspirations. But it is so important, that you also do the work to bring that vision into being while
Mhm.
you're also doing your spiritual workings and
Mhm.
backing it up with that energy. And I totally agree, Danielle.
Same.
Integrity and worthiness are hand in hand,
Mhm.
right? They really are. That is such a key. It's so important to really be in that place of honesty and
Mhm.
truth in your dealings, to deliver what you say you're going to deliver. And don't expect, that, you're just gonna get it on easy street. It doesn't work like that. The
Nope.
world doesn't work like that.
Nope.
As much as people would like things to work like that, it doesn't. In particular, for those who are entrepreneurial minded. And, I talk to a lot of people about this. My social life has suffered quite a bit because I have to put a lot of energy into what I'm building. It's just
Mhm.
the reality. And I know it's very kind of a popular mindset right now, like, no, you don't have to hustle. You don't have to grind to be successful. You can just kind of take it easy. And I love the idea of that. I do. I love the idea of that. But we live in a certain world, and the way it functions, and with as competitive, you know, of a market as it is, you do really need to put yourself out there. And that's where that integrity piece really comes through too, that Danielle brought in, is coming forward with your offering as you are, being real, and not putting on some bullshit act, or not going with what's trending, or what's popular, or what you think will be the hook that will get people wanting to buy into your services, but
Mhm.
rather letting what you have to offer come from a very genuine place, is always the way to go, because I really believe in authentic marketing
Mhm.
myself. This is kind of like, how are you a spiritual person when you're also in this, like, business arena? A lot of people struggle with that. And then you hear
Mhm.
all the new agey buzzwords and all the stuff used in marketing, and it's just like, please, can we just drop all that? It's like, I always tell people that, I am who I am, no matter where you see me, whether you see me on my business pages or whether you see me on my personal pages. Like, what you see is what you get. And it works for me. And I really believe in that. That if you present yourself as you are, and you bring your offering forward from a very genuine place, and you don't try to blow smoke up people's asses, people are not ignorant. They can see through a spiel. Okay. So don't give them a spiel. by all means, know that your offering has value, stand on that, and present it in a way that is in alignment with your integrity and the truth of what you're trying to create and the value of what you're offering people. And be yourself. You don't have to buy into a trend. Just be yourself. You don't have to go for what's popular or do what everybody else is doing, especially if you're entrepreneurial minded. You know, the more that you can follow the beat, of your own drummer and bring something unique to the table by letting your ashay come forward, your gifts, your medicine that you have to share with people that comes through what you offer as far as a service. The right people will resonate with you. And that's what matters, is entering that flow of, where's the resonance, you'll never find me doing the TikTok trends. You'll never find me doing this shit. You won't.
I might do some of the ones that talk about mental illness, but that's because I'm very open about, what it's like to practice with PTSD and what it's like to practice with anxiety. So, but that fits with what I discuss
That's
in
what I'm saying. I
Broom
mean, if it
Closet,
resonates with you, that's
right?
cool.
And no, I
But for
could not
me,
see you doing the
could you see me doing that? Do you know how many people have told me I need to do that shit?
no,
I've had
no.
so many people approach me and say, Shannon, you'd have so many more, followers. You'd have so many more likes, so much more interactivity if
Mhm,
you did this trend or that trend, or if you went with this viral sound, and
mhm.
I don't care. I don't care because
Right.
I know that if I move in that way, I'm not being true to who I am. And then
Mhm,
I'm putting on an act and I'm being phony. And I know that when I see someone doing that and it's not really what they're about, how it
mhm.
comes off to me, and I don't want to represent myself in that way.
Right.
And I am finding resonance. I am finding flow. I am building success, and I'm doing it my way. And so I
Mhm,
think that's a very good point too, is, just being in alignment with who you are authentically
mhm,
and letting that come forward, and trusting that if you really, believe in yourself, and if you believe what you're doing, the work that you're doing, you will be supported. You will connect with the right people and the right opportunities. Don't sell out, don't sell out. And then also in terms of the workings, like you were talking about, another piece is, we always, do these workings, um, but the piece that a lot of people miss out on is that, you got to feed the gods too.
mhm.
They need that reciprocal flow as well. So I like how you were like, kind of like cleaned your altar first, right? Before you discovered, like, oh, I didn't actually complete this working. And I think that that's a really important piece right there, because by you cleaning that altar and bringing that energy there, you were feeding the energy. And so you entered that reciprocal flow, that mutual exchange energy.
Mhm. Yes. No, and feeding your gods, that's also a really good point because, I was at the grocery store a couple of weeks ago and I am obsessed with things that are scented. Like I love scented candles, I love wax melts. I burn wax melts all the time. Went away from doing the candles, burn wax melts, obsessed. So I was looking for new wax melts and there was this pomegranate champagne fizz candle and Persephone was like, I want that. I want that. Get me that candle. And you put it on my altar and you burn that shit. And I was like, you really want a scented candle? Like, I was like, you really want a fucking scented candle? Like, you sure about that? And it was like, I was like, okay. So I got the damn pomegranate champagne fizz scented candle, and it actually smells really good. Um,
It sounds
But it
wonderful.
did. It actually it burnt out today, which is kind of fitting if we really want to get deep on that. So yeah, see you, Mama, see ya. So, but that's again, don't think because I also feel like this goes back to our earlier conversation of rules. You know, I think that the me of 15, 14 years ago in my early practice would have been like, you put a scented candle on your altar to Persephone? And it's like I would have been so like offended at it. And it's like now I get it, man. Like it's not about my aesthetic. Like it's not. I have sticks on there that Hades was like, "Hey, I like that little stick. You, you, you should just put it by my altar." And I'm, okay, I got little sticks on my altar. Like, I don't know. I don't know. So don't question yourself is I guess what I'm saying is, you know, and I've had other practitioners share this with me that they're, the spirits they're working with, the deities, sometimes they're like, you want a toy? Like, you want me to put a toy on there? Like, yeah, yeah, it's that simple. It really is that simple, and it really doesn't have to be that elaborate. And sometimes it's really just about connecting with, as you said, yourself and what it is within you and
Yes,
what's your practice.
yes.
So, if you're a
And I
newbie,
also think it's very helpful too to just on a practical level, you know, look at your ancestry, look at the people that you come from. What is kind of like the history of your bloodline in terms of their relation to this concept of wealth? How did they view money? What was the attitude about money in your household growing up? And what were some of those like common phrases you heard that sort of got conditioned into your mind? Like, I mean, let's look at a few of those, like money is the root of all evil, right? Well, if you think money is the root of all evil, okay, and
right?
you're a very spiritually oriented person,
Mhm.
then if that's part of your programming, there's going to be a part of you that actually pushes away that abundance and pushes away that wealth because you believe that if you were to be wealthy, that somehow means that you have compromised your credibility, you've compromised your integrity, like
Mhm.
Danielle was saying. And the reality is, you can flip that you
Mhm.
know, yeah, sure. If you were to be generously blessed and one of these people that's like a multi-millionaire, but you hoarded your money, and you didn't do anything that, benefited anyone else with all that wealth, like that's a shame, you know. And again, no judgment about how people choose to spend their money or work with their money. But I think that the more that we can understand that there's enough for everybody, right? And if you're so financially blessed that you're like a multi-millionaire, if you start kind of thinking about, if I did have this abundance, if money wasn't an object, if I wasn't stressed out about how am I going to make my bills, what good could I do in the world? How could I benefit other people? What way could I affect positive change if I had this money? And for me, that's something that I definitely had to start working with before I started to see finances kind of flow into my life and free up, because I did have a lot of that programming just in my upbringing. I grew up in a very religious upbringing. And there was a lot of this concept, despite the fact that a lot of these super churches, right, they're very wealthy, okay? Uh, but I definitely, grew up with a lot of that thought around money, and also just that it's not even something that's even possible. Okay, because that's kind of like been almost like a mantra, in my family. And it's been a trip to get to know some of my distant relatives that I wasn't very close with, and hear them echo the same sentiments that, like, oh, we just all struggle and that's just the way it is.
Yes.
It's just like the Elsum curse. And it's like, whoa, okay, so this is like, these are the thought patterns we're inheriting. So it's a lot
Mhm.
to unpack, but I think that
Yes.
that piece is super important to, like, look at that aspect.
Mhm.
How have you been conditioned to view finances, and are those views supporting you actually reaching a place of financial stability? And I'm not saying you have to be a multimillionaire, but wouldn't it be nice to just know that your needs are taken care of, and that you can also, have some fun money and do the things that you enjoy, and not have to live with that constant, stress of where's the next meal coming from, or how am I going to pay my car bill, or, any of these things, right? So I think we have to look at the roots too. And it's very interesting when you start to dive into that. And what I would say about that, and this is just coming from my angle, there was one relative in my family, he's deceased now, my grandfather, who was extremely wealthy, okay,
Mm.
billionaire. All right. So I never was very close to him, but in my ancestral work, I've started to do a lot more connecting with him and
Mm, mm,
calling
mm.
his energy in and being like, Grandpa, teach me how to change my relationship with financial flow. And as I have, I've started to understand a lot of things more easily, and understand how certain judgments were put on him because of his abundance, without a real understanding of how hard he had to work to make that happen, and what he invested in making that happen in order to create that. I mean, he came from the Depression era. So
Mm,
he,
mhm.
he was a self-made man. He's not somebody who was wealthy. He came from, this like lineage of poverty, and he transformed that. So I've been connecting with his energy in my ancestral work, and it's been pretty amazing to me how much it's starting to shift how I work with that currency.
Mhm. 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 No, 100%. Because, my I just discovered that my dad's side of the family, his mother's side of the family actually was very affluent and came from wealth and abundance. And that was very shocking to for me to find out because, that was not the case in our immediate family. Um, Whereas my mom's family, her own mother worked in the grape fields of Bakersfield. Literally came from Oklahoma because of the Dust Bowl, faked her age so she could work with her older sister in the grape field. I remember in high school, I tried to convince my English teacher that I did not need to read The Grapes of Wrath because my family had lived it and I
Mm.
could just ask my Mima what happened. And he laughed and said that was one of the best arguments I've ever heard for somebody not wanting to read this book. However, I'm sorry, your family experience does not mean that you cannot read this book. So I'm really sorry, Lizzie. You're gonna have to read Grapes of Wrath. So, but that's that's the when you talk about the energy that you have to work with, you know, that kind of mentality. And then her relatives, the very impoverished Oklahomans, if that's what you call them, that just a very long line of, I unfortunately, I think fairly, impoverished white folk.
Mhm.
Whereas we have the Italians who, you know, when my when my dad's mom married my grandfather, I think a lot of that got cut out from the life. And so it's, trying to I'm reluctant to connect with my nana's side of the family, um, because they are the DeSantises.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say DeSantis, I mean, yes,
Mm-hmm.
Florida DeSantis, directly related.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm having a lot of, because I'm like, will you go get my relative and have him stop this shit? Because, hi, I'm gay. I'm here. I got the DeSantis blood. What are you going to do about it? Um, but so that's, I guess the point I'm trying to make is if you are doing your ancestor work and you find that you're coming up against some of the things, there are other ways to go about it. There are other ancestors you can connect with in regards to finances and working around it. If you're not comfortable connecting with your ancestors, start connecting with gods, because that's what I do. My god Hades, he is a god of riches and money and wealth and growth. So I go to him, with my money stuff. So don't feel that you have to, again, this goes back to no rules. Don't feel that you have to do one thing or another. And if you have relatives that you want to work with, cool. But if you're doing the ancestor work and you're kind of coming up against some of the stuff, just know that it's normal.
Absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely. I mean,
that's it.
it can be interesting territory to dive into for
Mhm.
sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because right now with this new moon in Aries energy, we have the new moon conjunct Mercury, and Mercury is conjunct Chiron.
Mhm.
Chiron has
Hi.
been in Aries, okay, since February of 2019. Currently, Chiron is direct in Aries, but Chiron is going to be going retrograde in
Mm.
Aries again, July 19th through December 23rd. Okay, so
Oof.
yes. Usually Chiron stays in a sign about 8 years. Okay. So when it's in Aries, we're really looking at a lot of that childhood healing that needs to be done. We're really looking at deep roots healing. We're looking at the wounds of the self. So where in your
Mhm.
childhood did you take on beliefs that, told you you weren't worthy or you weren't deserving? And let's say your key to financial flow is about using one of your gifts. And what if you weren't supported in your gifts when you were a child? What if people kind of like shot you down and said, oh, that's not a reasonable dream to have. You need to do this. And instead you found yourself kind of heading in career directions that made your parents happy, but weren't necessarily what really fed your soul. And the reality is where you find your financial flow is when you're doing the things that you actually love doing. You enjoy them. They make you happy. They fulfill you on some level. You get to express some aspect of your Ashe. Now, anybody can go out and they can, find a job, that will pay the bills, and that'll help you get by. But when it comes to really entering that stream of reciprocal flow where you're showing up and you feel like all of life is kind of showing up to support you and the opportunities are appearing on your path and you're really experiencing an up level, financially, it's always when you're connecting with your purpose. And your purpose is always going to be that gift that you have inside that you're meant to share with the world. And a lot of times when we're kids, maybe what our purpose is that's coming forward, I believe a lot of times we're really in touch with it when we're young, you know, because we are so open. We haven't been jaded by the world yet. So we feel the freedom to dream big, you know, and that really lets the largesse of our spirit kind of express itself. So when you're surrounded by people who are sort of like, you know, telling you like, oh, you can never do that, or that's silly, you should do this instead, you know, or they're kind of like putting down your dreams, you can inherit that sort of blueprint. And that also can be a block to your financial expression. And so just
Mhm.
with this Aries energy that's really forward right now, that fool energy, what does the fool do, right? The fool has a dream. The fool is ready to go on an adventure. The fool is ready to be a beginner. The fool is ready to try something new. And so, what I would say is if you've been feeling a pull to kind of like, I've always wanted to work with this, but you know, everybody told me that there was no future in it or I couldn't make anything happen. But gosh, I really want to do this. If you're getting that kind of soul calling, why don't you just in this lunar cycle, you know, just open up the door a crack, you know, peer through it a little bit. Maybe start to take some steps and see what it feels like. What happens in your life as you start to explore these passions you have or this vision you've wanted to bring forward, even if it's just starting to research how you could bring it into being. And notice what opportunities open up for you. Notice how the energy starts to align to help actually make it a possibility for yourself. So I think it's you know, something that's very beneficial to work with in this Aries new moon energy, and we're going to be feeling the effects of this cycle. You know, this new moon energy all the way until the 20. No, I'm sorry, until the 30th. It's a 28-day cycle.
Mm, mm, mm,
Okay.
mm.
But then we got that eclipse energy. Okay. So right now is really the time where it's like, make hay while the sun shines, all right? Because once that eclipse energy comes in, then you know we got all the stuff working beneath the surface. So we really want to work with this blast of energy right now. And yes, it is about closing up cycles. It is about healing through communication and all of these things. But there's also really an opportunity to open up a new chapter in your life, to rewrite the script and to you know, think about what vision do you want to bring forward and what do you want your life to look like now.
Mhm.
We've all been living in a big question mark, you know, and we don't know what the future holds. Okay, we
Yeah.
don't. But all you can do is move from the place where you're at and, you know, bring that forward. I want to bring this up
Mhm.
here. I just turned 18 and have motion of moving out. I have 4K saved. Is there anything I can do or just wait? I would say if you got 4K saved up, do what I'm talking about. Open up that door. Start looking in the paper, you know? Start seeing what places are available. You know, start putting it out on your social media channels in your circles of friends like, "Hey, I'm looking to get a place of my own," you know? And see what opportunities come your way. And also, you know, uh do be aware of like your mindset, you know, I mean, this plays a part. It's everything. It's important to have a positive mindset, trust that you will get a place. I mean, to have 4K saved up is pretty darn good. Like, I think you can find a place, and congratulations for doing that work, and you're actually, you know, taking the steps to make that happen. So I'd say now's the time to back up your vision with tangible effort, you know. That's the
Mhm.
piece we were talking about earlier. You know,
Mhm.
it's great to have a vision, you know, and yes, let's build the spiritual energy to support it. And we're going to start to dive into that. We're going to make our money jars now. This will definitely support you in that. But I
Thank
would
you.
also say, you know, make sure that you're backing it up with tangible action. Start putting it out there in the world that you want to get your own place. Start letting your friends know. Start looking in the paper, look online, you know, go out and see some of these places. Okay. even if you're not sure if you want them, just get out there, go and check out the places, have conversations with the landlords and get the energy moving. Because once you get that energy moving, you're starting to put out a different frequency. And so then the energy that's coming in to support you in life is going to start matching what you're bringing forward rather than just sitting and letting it be just kind of an idea in your head. You've already done the work of saving up that money, which is so awesome. Okay. So awesome. So now follow through and start looking at what opportunities are available for you.
Mhm. And something else, and you know what? People of New York, don't come for me. But New York is not the center of the world. Be brave, honey. I'm 39, and the biggest, I don't want to say regret, because I don't necessarily regret it, but the thing I think back about the most is when I was your age and I had the type of money that you had, I did not take the risk because everyone around me told me, "Are you insane? A 19-year-old girl does not go to Europe by herself. You can't do that." 20 years later, do I wish I would have looked respectfully at the people in my life and said, "You know what? No." Because I'm 19 now and I know what's best for me. And maybe, just maybe, getting out of New York City, because I'm also going to come for California too. California is not the end all be all, okay? These two states that, America has like put up on this pedestal, I kind of feel like they're showing that they're not all that. And they're kind of dying. And it's their own fault. They're literally cannibalizing themselves. And all I'm saying, honey, is, I'm sorry, all I'm saying is be brave and maybe, just maybe, take a chance and get out of your surroundings. That's all. And I wish you the very best of luck.
I think that's great. Yeah. I mean, if you feel adventurous, definitely, you can explore outside of New York. But I also, and I know, I mean, it's no joke. Okay. I come from California. I'm in Detroit now.
So do I.
And it's a whole different reality, here, but I know what that's like living in a place where everything is, the cost of living is just exceedingly high. And also there's a lot of greed with the landlords. Okay. It's very demoralizing. Okay. So I know all about that reality. But even in that atmosphere, okay, I was able to line up places to live. All right. So I say just start to put it out there, really hold that intention and demonstrate to life that you're serious about it, that you do want to strike out on your own and just start exploring and open up to it. You might be surprised. An opportunity might come your way that you think, "Oh, there's no way this could happen." So, but it will never happen if you don't start looking. If you don't start moving the energy out of the head and actually putting it into action. So that's what I would say. Just take the smallest steps and trust. It'll build momentum.
Mm-hmm,
As you start
mm-hmm.
to explore, it'll make you curious to explore more and the opportunities will start coming your way. But let's make this money jar, you say? We're going to make a money jar, okay? And this will support you as you're looking. And I'm just sending good energy your way, AJ type beat.
Me
And
too.
may you be blessed up with a perfect living situation so you can get out and strike out on your own. It's such an empowering step. And I really hold that for you, okay?
Not only that, but man, being 18 in this time, my heart goes out to you, young man, because it's not easy. It wasn't easy being 18 when I turned 18, but man, I can't imagine. So may the force be with you. And I'm glad you're here tonight because you're exactly where you need to be.
Yes, yes. So let's make this money jar. And let's talk about, as we're going to go ahead and construct it, we're not going to do any like ritual around it and constructing it. I want you all to do that on your own in a way that speaks to you. Everybody will have their own kind of ritual practices, but even just making this jar and then feeding it in the way that I'm going to share with you, it will be sufficient. I do suggest that while you're feeding it, you do create a little altar space for it. Okay. It doesn't have to be fancy. All right. It doesn't. It doesn't have to be fancy. It can be a shelf. It can be your bedside table. It doesn't have to be an official altar, but if you have an altar space, cool, use it. Or maybe, you have it someplace where you conduct your business if you work from home. That'd be a wonderful place to keep your money jar. And just the act of feeding it daily during this lunar cycle is definitely going to help that out. So you're going to get your jar, okay? They're trying to get you to go to community college, but you have other intentions. You know what? I really say follow your dream.
Me
You
too.
know, follow your dream. You got it. You got to go where your heart's leading you. You will never, never regret it. And even if it's a lesson learned, you'll never regret it. Okay. We're here to live. We're here to, take those risks that actually excite us and motivate us moving forward. So, make that happen. So you want to get your jar, whether you're using a glass jar or a gelato jar,
That's right.
ceramic jar, any kind of jar, it don't matter, okay? When you release it, you're not going to be releasing the jar, you're going to be releasing the contents, okay? So
Mhm.
it doesn't matter what kind of jar you use, you just want a container for that, all right? Now, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to get your dollar bill, okay?
Ooh.
We're going to get your dollar bill, and you want to get that green writing implement you have, okay? Whether it's a pen, a pencil, or if you're like me, you got a Crayola crayon. It's all good. It all works. Now, on the side here with Mr. George Washington, all
That's
right,
right.
I want you to write what you're wanting to receive monetarily, okay? Make it simple. Make it simple. Now, AJ type B, if what you're looking for is, the finances, the financial flow to be able to get your own place in New York, write that down. Okay. It can just be lasting wealth,
Mhm.
or money for a down payment on a house, whatever you want, whatever financial reality you're wanting to manifest for yourself. Go ahead and take a moment and just consider what is your goal, put it into a sentence, and then write it across the bottom of that dollar bill. Okay. I'll give you guys a few moments just to consider that.
And I didn't like my green pen, so now I'm going to use a green colored pencil. And I don't have a dollar. Just if anybody's watching, I don't have a dollar, but I have 3 shiny pennies, and so that's what I'm using.
And once you have written your intention across the bottom of your dollar bill, I want you to get whatever oil you're using, whether it's clove oil, cinnamon oil, money oil, or some other oil that you felt drawn to, and put a little of that oil in the palm of your hand. I'm using clove oil. And if you're using a dollar bill, okay, you're going to take that oil, you're going to put it across George's eyes. And you'll notice on the dollar bill, the ones in each corner, you're going to put some on each one of those ones. Okay, so you got 5 dots of oil on that bill. All right. Now you're going to take your bill and you're going to fold it towards you 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Rotate it now clockwise. So it's this way, and fold it towards you 3 times again. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now go ahead and drop that in your jar. Okay. Now you want to take the different herbs that you're going to be using. Okay. And you're going to start by just placing them in your hand. Just want to charge them up with your intention, that same intention that you wrote down. Just hold your herbs in your hand like so. And just focus on your intention for a moment.
I forgot my bay leaves.
And once you charge those herbs with your intention, you're just going to drop them in the jar right over that dollar bill. And then whether you have a magnet or a lodestone or a piece of pyrite, okay. I got a little teeny magnet here that I turned into a bill. Again, you're going to just hold that in your hands. And I want you to focus on it magnetizing your intention towards you. So really get a feeling for what it would feel like, how your reality would shift when your intention comes true, whatever you wrote down on that dollar bill. And maybe even say your intention as if it already is. For example, I have lasting financial wealth and stability. My intention is magnetized toward me. It draws to me opportunities. It draws toward me support. It draws toward me blessings that manifest my intention in material reality now. And then place that in the jar. Now you're going to get your piece of paper bag that you tore, and you are going to write across it 7 times across, going down, your name. Okay?
Hmm.
Okay. Once you have done that, you are going to rotate your paper clockwise the other way and write across it 7 times a dollar symbol. Okay? So $7 symbols right over the top of your name. And when you've done that, you're going to do the same thing as before. You are going to fold it 3 times towards you, always towards you, okay? Because you're calling it in. You can do petitions like this where you send something away, you fold it the other way, away from you, okay? But you want to call this in. And you, again, turn it clockwise, all right? And fold it towards you 3 times again. All right? Drop that in your jar. Okay. Now, you are going to take those 3 pennies and you're going to hold them in your hand. And you're going to ask for the road to be opened so financial flow can come to you freely. And then just listen as I say this Psalms for you. And if you know Psalms 23, you can say it with me. The Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right path for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Go ahead and drop those into your jar. And then you're going to take all of your silver coins.
Oh, I got silver coin. I do. I got some.
And we're going to get a little musical with this, okay? And it's okay to listen to it. You will be feeding your jar daily with this chant, okay? So you might want to look it up after this live if you don't know it. It's called Ching 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 Goes the Money Tree. I can't remember who originally put it out, the creator that originally put it out, but I will give them credit. I'll put a comment on this live afterwards.
So his name is Nish Nasty.
All right, Nish Nasty. And it's actually great. And he actually has a video out that you can follow along, and it's really wonderful. And it does build an awesome energy to it. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get it going. And what you do, start shaking your coins in your hand. Okay, and he goes, ching, ching, ching goes the money tree. And every time it ching, money comes to me. It all flows in so abundantly from the top, left, right, and under me. Wave, 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 I'm a money wave. Money flow, money made. Flowing in and out, plus money saved. Debt, 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 all debt is paid. Ching, ching, ching goes the money tree. Ching, ching, ching goes the money tree. Ching, ching, ching goes the money tree. And every time a ching, money comes to me. It all flows in so abundantly from the top, left, right, and up under me. Wave, 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 I'm a money wave. Money flow, money made. Flowing in and out, plus money saved. Debt, 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 all debt is paid. Ching, ching, ching goes the money tree. Ching, ching, ching goes the money tree. Ching, ching, ching goes the money tree. And every time a ching, money comes to me. It all flows in so abundantly from the top, left, right, and up under me. Wave, 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 I'm a money wave. Money flow, money wave. Money flowing in and out, plus money saved. Debt, 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 all debt is paid. Ching, ching, ching goes the money tree. Ching, ching, ching goes the money tree. Ching, ching, ching goes the money tree. And every time a ching, money comes to me. It all flows in so abundantly from the top, left, right, and up under me. Wave, 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 I'm a money wave. Money flow, money made. Flowing in and out, plus money saved. Debt, 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 all debt is paid. Ching, ching, ching goes the money tree. Ching, ching, ching goes the money tree. Ching, ching, ching goes the money tree. And every time it comes, ching, money comes to me. It all flows in so abundantly. From the top, left, right, and abundantly. Wave, 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 I'm a money wave. Money flow, money made. Flown in and out, plus money saved. Debt, 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 all debt is paid. Ching, ching, ching goes the money tree. Ching, ching, ching goes the money tree. Ching, ching, ching goes the money tree. And every time a ching money comes to me, it all flows in so abundantly. From the top, left, right, and abundantly. Wave, 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 I'm a money wave. Money flow, money made. Flowing in and out, plus money saved. Debt, 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 all debt is paid. Ching, ching, ching goes the money tree. Ching, ching, ching goes the money tree. Ching, ching, ching goes the money tree. And every time ching money comes to me, it all flows in so abundantly. From the top, left, right, and up under me. Wave, 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 I'm a money wave. Money flow, money made. Flowing in and out, plus money saved. Debt, 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 all debt is paid. Ching, ching, ching goes the money tree. Ching, ching, ching goes the money tree. Ching, ching, ching goes the money tree. And every time a ching money comes to me, it all flows in so abundantly. From the top, left, right, and up under me. Wave, 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 I'm a money wave. Money flow, money made. Flowing in and out, plus money saved. Debt, 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 all debt is paid. Ching, ching, ching goes the money tree. Ching, ching, ching goes the money tree. Go ahead and drop that in your jar. Okay. Now, we're going to get whatever you got to sweeten the pot. All right. Now, there's a couple different things you can use, and you don't have to use just one. You can use them all if you want. They all have different purposes. Now, I got two things, okay? I got two things. I got some maple syrup, and I got some sugar. I want to explain the difference between the two because they both work in different ways, okay? Sugar, white sugar is for fast, all right? If you want to see it happen quickly, okay, you use white sugar. If you want it to have long-lasting value, you use maple syrup. Why? Because syrup comes from trees, right? So it's very rooted. And have you ever watched the way sap flows? It flows slow, okay? So there's nothing wrong with using, white sugar. Get that fast money in with Aries season. Like, there ain't nothing wrong with that, okay? Aries likes it now, Aries wants it like yesterday, okay? So it's great to work with the sugar if that's what you got. You can also work with both, okay? You can be like me. You're like, I want it fast and I want it to last, okay? So go ahead and pour your sugar or your syrup, okay, into the jar to the point that it totally covers the contents, all right? Just top it off. All right. And you don't have to fill your jar to the top, all right? But you do want to make sure that the contents inside are totally covered up, all right? All right. So this is the action that I got going on right now.
Nice.
Okay? Then you want to take your lid, okay, and seal it up. Now, this is the important part, okay? Every day for this lunar cycle, okay? So stick with it. The next 28 days, you're already going to do it, you've already done it tonight, okay? So you don't need to do it tonight. And starting tomorrow up until the 30th, this is a steady working. It builds, okay? You're going to shake your jar while you do that ching, ching, ching goes the money tree. Ching. All right? Okay. And you are going to take a candle. All right. And you are going to place that candle on top of your jar and you're going to light it. And it's totally cool if the wax comes down and it, covers the lid. It looks really neat. I always love that. I do want to share really briefly that I'm using this awesome candle that was made for me by At the Sharpest Teeth, my dear Broad Wilder. They make really incredible magical things. This is a self-care candle, but I thought, what could be better self-care than me being in a place of financial stability and abundance where I can just kind of just sink into the enjoyment of my life. So, and it just so happens to be green, and I wanted to light it on new moon, and I never knew that I would be using it in quite this way, but I'm so excited to work with this. So you want to just go ahead and light your candle. And when you light your candle, I also want you to consider, and this is something I want you to hold throughout this working for the next 28 days, is when this abundance comes in for you, in what way are you going to pay that energy forward? In what way are you going to extend that blessing into the community around you? How are you going to give back? Okay, because we talked about that flow of giving and receiving. Okay, so just take a moment and think about when you achieve this, how will you pay that energy forward so you can keep that reciprocal flow going, because there really is a limitless supply. There's enough for everybody.
I left my lighter outside. I'll be right back.
So it'll look something like this. And you just let the candle burn down completely. Okay, so if you're using something like me, a little bit bigger of a candle, do be sure to have something fire safe, underneath the candle, so you don't have to worry about any emergencies resulting. Tea lights work great for this too. Tea lights, that metal, it really heats up the lid of the jar, and heat is very activating. All right.
Oh,
It
I got all
provides the
that.
activation of everything, and it gets things moving faster. All right. It gets things transforming faster. So you don't have to use a candle like me. It doesn't have to drip down. You can use a tea light. You can use a little birthday candle, just whatever works for you. But every day over the next 28 days, you want to put a candle on and light it on top of the jar after you have given it a good shake and done your ching, ching, ching is the money tree chant. Okay. Ching, ching, ching goes the money tree chant. And then after the 28 days, at the end of the month, what you're going to do is you are going to go outside. Okay. I recommend somewhere near a tree is nice. The roots of a tree is very nice. You're going to dig yourself a hole. You're going to open up your jar and you are going to pour the contents into the earth with the intention that abundance and that blessing pours into the earth, and that it comes forward and it blesses all the inhabitants of this earth. And so you're just feeding the abundance energy of the world around you symbolically too, with your spiritual working. And you've already held the intention, throughout this process of how you will pay that forward in a tangible way through your actions while you've done the working. So it's also a way for you to really offer that intention to the earth in a very symbolic way, and then bury it, and it is done. And just trust that it will do its working.
Yay!
Yes.
Pause before I'm going to wait before I light mine. So
Yes.
I feel like Papa wants in on this one. So I'm like, okay, sure. I get it. He's like, money? Oh, yeah. Come here. Like, yeah. No, I know.
So, yeah, just, put it somewhere where, it's a focal point for you.
Mhm.
Ooh, it's pretty wild. Mine's bubbling.
Ooh.
Mine's already bubbling. It's bubble and brew. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but look at these. There's like bubbles forming.
Ooh.
So yeah, go ahead and put it somewhere, where you won't forget. It's a daily practice, but it only takes a couple minutes to give it a shake, do the chant. As far as how many times to do the chant, you'll know. You'll feel it. You'll feel it because you'll kind of start going faster with the chant. You'll feel the energy start to build, and it'll come to kind of a crescendo, and you'll feel like it's naturally time to release it. So don't get hung up on chanting it a certain amount of times, or anything like that. Just go by feel. And that's really like it's feeding the spirit of the jar. Okay. When you're doing a working like this, whether you're working with like a mojo bag, or whether you're doing jar work, that's what you're doing. It's kind of like you are concocting a spirit, and
Sure.
that spirit wants to be fed. If you don't feed that spirit, it's not going to be happy with you. Okay. And things might go south. So make sure that you feed that spirit daily. Once you turn it over to the earth, you don't need to worry about it anymore. The earth will tend to that spirit, and that spirit and all that love and that energy and that focus you put into it and return to the earth is going to do its work. It's going to go out in the world and spread that abundance energy that's, that beautiful reciprocal flow that's going to benefit the greater collective. So there you have it. A working for a new moon in Aries.
I liked that. Thank you very much. Thank
You're welcome.
you. Thank you. Oh gosh, thank you to everybody who showed up and your input and your energy. It is much appreciated and much felt. And just thank you kindly, Miss Shannon. Uh-oh. She froze. Oh, she's still frozen. Oh my. Oh, yep. So she froze, everybody. And I'm still here. At least it's her sweet little smiling face that we're all seeing. Um, and so now it's just me. Kai, I want to say yes. I definitely do. I'm gonna wait to see if she comes back in. I mean, my instinct is to say yes, absolutely, because why would you not want to? Especially like if that's what your spirit is kind of saying and moving you towards. Absolutely, 100%. That was a great question. I can't put your question up because It's not. This is not my StreamYard that we're using. Yeah, it won't let me. So for everybody that is not on YouTube right now, Shannon is also streaming this on YouTube, and Kai asked,
Hello.
hello. I was like talking, and I was like, oh wait, she's frozen, and then I was like, oh, now it's just me. Hi. Um, and now she froze again. Ah, Miss Kai, look up. Oh, you're here. She's here, but she's not here. This is strange. Miss Kai, look up. What is the name of it? Hold, please. I'm so sorry. I'm woefully not prepared. So it's called Ching Ching Money Tree. If you put it in Google, it'll actually pull up. It was a TikTok video that was made last year. And it's a YouTube video as well, and also on Spotify. So you can look that up. And we lost her again. I guess that means we probably should wrap it up. Huh? It's her spirits being like, no, okay, we're done. It's like, oh, okay. It's the energy working. The energy's like, yes, we're done. It happens. It happens. It happens. It definitely. Oh, I think she's back. Maybe.
All right.
Okay. Really, really.
I think it's a sign. I don't know if it'll kick me off again. So
I laughed and I said that too. I said maybe it's her spirit saying that we should wrap this up and that we're done.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. We raised too much energy. It's just like,
did.
look,
We did. It was like good. Oh, goodness. Well, thank you very much, Broad. Appreciate you as always. If you're catching me, you can find me at Strega Lizzie's Broom Closet on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. And you catch me Sunday night with my friend Matt. We do tarot readings. So come on by on Sunday evening and get a tarot reading. And then you can catch me with this broad, at least once a month. And we do something like this. So, Shannon, I love you.
I love you too.
And I will see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you, everybody, for coming.